Alright, so now we have our ocean set up with no displacement yet, but it's looking really blue and kind of cartoony. So if we reduce the refraction, if we're looking at water, if we're looking at an ocean from this scale, we probably wouldn't be able to see directly through to the sand. So by reducing the refraction to even 0.3, you can see how we're really reducing the transmission of the water and how far we're able to see through it. And so really, because of the scale of our scene and all that, maybe we can see a little bit of this sand underneath, but probably not much. And it's not shallow enough that maybe we'd see coral or anything like that. So I'm going to reduce the refraction entirely to about 0.15. So we can it's mainly just going to be reflecting the sky at this point. And maybe we can see a little bit of the sand. And if we were maybe more top-down view, it would be more apparent because we'd have less reflection. But I'm going to leave it like this to reducing the weight of the refraction down to 0.15. All right, so there's a good start. So now let's just kind of bring in our other attributes here. So we had this cusp attribute. If we add in RS point attribute, we can bring in that cusp attribute that was attached to our ocean there. And if we just kind of attach the color to the surface of our material, let's render that, and now we don't need to load in our mountain. I just wanted to show the difference of the refraction and how we could barely see the sand if we had enough of refraction. So now we can I can hide the mountain now. And let's open up our render view. Let's take a look at our cusp attribute just attached to the ocean as it is. So here we go. So here's the information we've got from the waves, and this could be really useful. We could plug this into the transmittance of the ocean and the specular, all sorts of things. So what I want to do is I just want to find a value that I like that I'm going to plug into the top of the wave. So I'm going to throw down a math node and redshift change range, and let's plug that in. Let's just take a screenshot of this. Let's plug this in, and now we just need to find the values that we like for our mask here. So I found that by kind of crushing these values, we can really just get the top of the waves, and just like that we've got our wave information. But when we plug this into the shader, this is going to be the value that I'm going to be adding into the diffuse of the water shader. And I've found that I really need to boost this value up to make it quite bright, which means I'm going to need to crush this even more. So I find a value of -1 to 10. And so now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug this into the diffuse color, and then now let's plug that in back as it was before. So now we have control over the waves. The diffuse weight, not the diffuse color. So diffuse weight, there we go. So just like that, we've got our wave information. So all I'm really going to do is I even like the gray, but I might just make a little blue because we're going to be adding a little bit of foam, or actual foam particles on there as well. So I'm going to try to match this color with our foam particles, but this could be kind of act like the translucence of the water. But also, if we wanted to dial it back, we've got control via this math range here. All right, so there we got our math. We've got our wave set up. Now let's add in our displacement. All right, so let's just save this. I'm going to throw down an RS texture sampler and navigate to the displacement. Navigate to the displacement layer that you exported. And I've exported this in 4K. So if you go into your object and where you would export this out in the ocean surface, down in the ocean preview, once we select export to texture, we've got a bake resolution. And I've found that we really need a minimum of 4K resolution to get a good enough displacement on this ocean. So I've added a 4K texture, and then I've baked that out. Maybe the 2K would be enough, but I'm not so concerned about the space, and so I've baked out a 4K texture, and there it is there. All right, so since we had that UV attribute applied, I know the UVs are going to be correct. So now let's just plug this in to a displacement. And this is a vector image, so I'm going to choose vector from the map. And now let's just plug this in to our displacement here. All right, so we've got our displacement working, and we can see the difference here. We got a lot more depth, and we got our waves working. Looks pretty good. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop the displacement down by half. And also what we could do is we could do a displacement. We could layer these up and add a displacement blend. So essentially, I'm going to copy these, and maybe for a little bit of extra detail, I'm going to scale the pattern here 3 times to make it 3 times smaller. And now let's blend both of these displacements. So we've got our displacement blend, our main displacement in the base, and the out I'm going to put into the layer displacement input. And I'm going to choose to add it on top. I don't want to blend in between. I just want to add it on top. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop both these displacements down by half, so 0.5. So essentially we've added another little displacement on there, and we're blending the two. So let's take a look at that. And there we have it. So we're adding it on top, and we're also blending it by 0.5. Maybe let's choose to blend it by a value of 1. All right, there we go. So we're adding all this extra detail in from our smaller displacement here and getting all this extra detail. So that's pretty great. Now you can see our full ocean, and we got our waves in there and all our displacement. Looks pretty good. So finally, in the next lesson, let's set up our foam particles.